Hello, everybody. This is Brian Azio from Twilight Parables. Got my hair cut, so look a little better for you guys. Police kept picking me up for vagrancy laws. I did something. So, we're going to talk about some concepts that aren't precisely dream interpretation, but will help you understand spiritual matters so that you can interpret dreams better. Because we've been trained. We live in a very materialistic society, um, and that trains us to look at things materially. It's not just material like money wise, but the philosophy of materialism is that the material world is really all that exists, or it's really all that matters, and everything's related to physicality, materially, sensory. So that can really cause issues in dreams, like someone dies in a dream. You assume they are physically going to die because you are physically oriented. Uh, you give birth in a dream, you assume you're going to have a physical baby or give physical life because you're physically oriented. Or if God said He wants your life, and it's like, the angel of death's gonna come kill you. Just this kind of thing because we're so physically oriented. We're very literally oriented. But dreams are not so literal. They're parables. They're symbols. They're figurative, and nearly all the time they're talking about a spiritual, emotional kind of thing instead of a physical thing, especially when issues life and death. So let's go over some things. I realize the New Testament probably wasn't written in Greek originally, but Koine Greek was the lingua franca, so everybody understood it. And if you want to get the gospel out to the most people, you'd write it in Greek because it made more sense. Even if the people doing who saw the original account probably heard it in Aramaic or Hebrew, probably wrote it in Aramaic or Hebrew. As Jerome said in the 4th century, Matthew actually was written in Hebrew, for example. And some of the other church fathers said Paul wrote in Hebrew, and Luke had to translate them into Greek for him. And you study Greek grammar, but it's a whole other topic. So, what we're looking at in Greek is you have the Creator gives you a dream, and through His revelation of Himself to mankind, one of His revelations is the Scripture. He reveals Himself through nature, through dreams, through visions, through personal experiences. He reveals Himself in a lot of ways, but one of the primary ones that's universal to all of us is Scripture because we all read pretty much the same Bible, some variants. So the Creator is expressing Himself through a written format. We call it Scripture, and Scripture was Koine Greek language, and there are variants of words that Greek has that we don't have. So we need to go over those variants of words real quick to understand these concepts. So let's start with life because that's how Hebrews work. Life overtakes death. That's the primary concern. That's why a wedding and a funeral meet on the road. The wedding gets the right of way because life has more importance than death. Life is more valued and gets greater honor. So, 3 words for life. Speaking of life, there's bios. Now, don't slaughter my Greek. I don't know that's pretty sure it's an omega. Sorry, it's an omega and an omicron. But anyway, bios means your physical life. Your heart is pumping blood. You are physically alive. Psyche is what we call the soul. Uh, in English, it's your mind, will, and your emotion. Psyche or suke. It's your mind, will, and your emotion. Your personality, your plans for yourself, your methods of operating, how you typically respond to things, your habits, your goals, your interpretation of things, your viewpoint. That's all your psyche. That's your personality. And Zoe is your spiritual life. Like, are you going to continue on after death to immortality, or are you just going to go to end your existence somewhere? So there's 3 types of life. Bios is physical life. Suke or psyche is the life of the soul, mind, will, emotions. And Zoe is spiritual life. Now, in a dream, if you are told someone's life is ebbing away, for example, or you're asked to give your life, well, which life is that? Are you asked to give your physical life for something? Are you asked to give your dreams, your plans, your goals, your status, your personality, your identity up for something else, a different identity, different goals, different plans, different strategies, different ways of seeing things, different traditions? Or are you being warned that your spiritual life is going away, or you need to trust God with your spiritual life? Which interpretation of life are we talking about? Physical life, soul life, or spirit life? Bios, psyche, Zoe, your physical life, your soul life, or your spirit life. So that has a really big bearing on interpreting a dream where the word term life is involved. Giving life, taking life, life ebbing away, a whole new life, these kind of things. Life being given to you. And there's two words for death. Necros and thanatos. From necros we get words like necrophy, I think it is. When part of your flesh, like your foot, the skin starts to die, your flesh starts to die, tissue starts to die. And Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead, that's physical death. And it's really important in interpreting the scripture. It's a huge difference. And thanatos is spiritual death. So necros, your body dies. Thanatos, your soul and your spirit die. Which, to someone that's called annihilationist, it means whatever amount of pollution your soul has accumulated throughout the years on earth, it has to be burned away. It has to go. It has to be dealt with. It has to be burned away in a place called hell or Hades or Gehenna. And then you cease to exist. So necros is your physical body going away. It turning into ashes or dirt and ceasing to exist, decomposing. And thanatos is spiritual death, when you are spiritually dying. When the part of you that was intended to be immortal is no longer immortal. It gets consumed and then you don't exist anymore. The thanatos. So that's the types of death. And no one can read my writing. And not even me. Sometimes. These types of life. Bios, Suke, and Zoe, or physical, soul, and spirit. So we get those concepts down. 3 words for life. The physical life, the soul life, the spirit life, and 2 words for death. Physical death, spiritual death. So someone dies in a dream. Well, they're physically dying? Is their body dying? Or are they dying spiritually? Have they gotten into something that's making them less and less like God? That's making them less and less like the Messiah? That's making them more and more like an animal? Or are they spiritually dying? Are they losing all sense of spiritual navigation? So if you have a dream about someone dying, I don't know which is worse, actually, dying physically or dying spiritually. But it could infer one of those 2 things. And kind of in the middle, so we see that bios and necros correspond. Physical life, physical death. We see that Zoe and thanatos correspond. Spiritual life, spiritual death. Psyche is an interesting thing. It's kind of in the middle. When Yeshua or Jesus said, "Who wishes to find his life must lose his life," the life you had to lose was not your bios, not your physical life. And there were thousands of people that sought out terrible deaths and martyrdom because they were taught that Jesus was saying, because by this point they're reading the Bible in Latin and it's interpreted by the Catholic Church. They're being taught that Jesus said, the only way to make certain you get to heaven is to physically sacrifice your physical life and be martyred. And that's the only way you're certain you're going to the kingdom. And that's what a shabib is in Islam. They have the same concept. The only way to make certain you go to heaven is to die as a martyr. Take a lot of people with you. But that's not what Jesus or Yeshua said. He was saying your soul life. If you wish to inherit eternal spiritual life, you have to be willing to give up and submit your mind, will, and emotions. Islam actually means submit, so it's interesting play on words. But you have to be willing to submit your mind and your will and your emotions to the Spirit of God, to the Spirit of the Creator. You have to be willing to let go of who you think you are of who other people think you are, of your traditions, of your reactions, of your ways of thinking about everything. You have to be willing to let all of that go and submit it to the Creator. So your soul has to die, or it has to at least take a back seat to the Spirit, what the Spirit wants you to do. So when this says you have to be willing to lose your life to keep it, it's not necessarily talking about martyrdom, physical life. It's talking about be willing to lose your soul life, your mind, the domination of your mind, will, and emotions over the Spirit. Because your mind, will, and emotions has to be willing to lay down its life, be willing to be sacrificed for the desires of the Spirit. So you can imagine in dreams how this would get all sorts of interesting. But you have physical life, soul life, spirit life. So life is involved. There's three kinds of life. You have physical death and spiritual death. So death's involved. There's two kinds of death. And sometimes it's your soul that's dying. It's this person's mind, will, and emotions on a matter that's dying. Sometimes it's your relationship with that person that's dying. Or this person is they're talking about losing a part of themselves, or something happened and a part of themselves just died that day. A memory, a hope, a dream. So the soul can kind of fall in the middle there. But to review real quick, you have a dream about life, you have to ask good questions. Questions are the ways we learn. That's how rabbis always taught, was questions. So you have a question, you have a dream where there's life in it. The Creator wants to be, it's like hide and seek. He wants to be found. He wants to be sought out. He gives you a dream to seek Him. So you ask the Creator, is this about physical life, soul life, or spirit life? Or you can ask, is this about physical death or spiritual death? Or is this about the death of the psyche, the mind, will, the emotions? This is about letting something in that die for something spiritual to take place. So I hope it helps you guys. It's a fairly quick overview. It's Greek. It's kind of complicated. But twilightparables@gmail.com if you have any questions, or leave in the comments. Please subscribe to Twilight Parables here on YouTube. And I'm going to have a Patreon link up soon. I also have PayPal on my website, twilightparables.com. So this has been helpful to you. It'd be very helpful for me if you consider a donation. Thank you so much.